Hello, I'm Kendall Bryan Hunter. I'm the author of Consider My Servant Job, and this is Come Follow Me, Get to the Point. So, first of all, we're in, where are we at? Genesis 3, 4, Moses 4, 5. And we start talking about creation. That's an ex nihilo creation. That's really important. Talk about it in the King Follette Discourse, also in section 93. And also, Alma 4142 talk about this concept that we don't have a fluid, gooey reality that's fixed, set, and that God works within this context. Now, properly, we're talking about the fall of Adam. This is Article of Faith number 2. So, first thing, fall of Adam. First thing to understand is the reality of Satan. And what's the best commentary if you want to study about the life of Satan? What's the best book to buy? No, it's not the Screw Tape Letters, because C.S. Lewis was not a member of the church. It's studying the scriptures. However, after that, I can't highly enough recommend this book called Shedding Light on the Dark Side, Defeating the Forces of Evil, A Guide for Youth and Young Adults by Stephen J. Sterling, published by Cedar Fort, which is the same company that I work for. Good book. I recommend reading it. Too bad the author's passed on. Okay, so reality of Satan. It's something fell over. Just run with it. Reality of Satan. So the real person as we're taught in the scriptures and in the endowment. The next thing after that is the human nature question. People will get this debate about is human nature good or bad, and some people in the church sometimes think that human nature is good or they fall into the trap. Actually, what it is, human nature is fallen. It's carnal, sensual, and devilish. You read that a lot in the Book of Mormon. That's important in understanding the atonement. Best commentary on human nature within the Book of Mormon is Helaman chapter 12, and also John Taylor Manual, Chapter 1, because there's a dichotomy about human nature. And it's really important because it actually affects politics and government. Some of the debate we have in politics and government is about human nature. For example, in The Social Contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he begins by saying is that man is born free and is everywhere in chains. And that's not what you're reading in the scriptures. What you're reading in the scriptures is carnal, sensual, and devilish. And it's interesting because Federalist Papers, which is articles written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. Alexander Hamilton had a part in writing this, so the guy from the musical. And Federalist number 55, it says, is that as there is a degree of depravity in mankind, which requires a certain degree of circumspection and distrust, so there are other qualities in human nature which justify a certain portion of esteem and confidence. Republican government presupposes the existence of these qualities in a higher degree than any other form. And also the famous quote from Federalist 51, if men were angels, we'd need no government. Really important question, because people kind of focus on things that they have people try and solve problems by solve difficulties like, for example, the workplace by focusing on attitude, or they focus on behavior, or they focus on character, which is Stephen Covey's big thing. But they don't talk about human nature. And if you take care of human nature, these other things take care of themselves. Excuse me. So after that, fall of Adam, next thing to think about is Eve's role. For example, when you read the scriptures, Eve doesn't say that because of my inherent nature and wisdom I had as a woman or as an Eve, I partook of the fruit. It's not what you read. What you read is Eve says, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And go back and think of what Adam said, is that when Adam was asked why he partake of the fruit, Adam said, the woman thou gavest me, and commanded that she should remain with me. And you think about that, is what was going through Eve admits that, yeah, she was beguiled, but Adam says, well, I got these, I was in what's called a double bind. I had to procreate, and I also had to obey your commandments. I just could not do both. So this is the best solution I came up with out of discerning that. And that's what life is like. You get all these really close judgment calls, things, and two good things, what are called antinomies, two good choices at once, or difficulties like that. Which service project do you attend? You have two service projects scheduled. How do you spend your money? And so it's just a really commonplace problem that we have. The next thing to think about with the fall of Adam is the place of death. And this is one of the things that we have conflicts with science, with Darwin, is that 2 Nephi chapter 2, verse 22, so that there is no death before the fall of Adam. And that's important because you understand that's tied with Christ's missions, that Christ came to compensate for the effects of the fall. And if there was death going on, then it creates a bit of a problem. And so people believe different things about this, but the key thing is to understand what the scriptures teach. Okay, here we are now to Cain, Abel, and Seth. And the issue with Cain and Abel was a question of who's the priesthood heir, who carries on the lineage of the priesthood. And you have the instance of Cain's sacrifice versus Abel's sacrifice. Now, what exactly was going on with the sacrifice? Well, you have to read the Joseph Smith Manual, chapter 8, or in Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, page 58 and 169. Joseph Smith talks about the nature of the sacrifice, how it needed to be done in a right way, and also had to be a blood sacrifice, whereas Abel gave fruit and vegetable sacrifice. Now, of course, there is fruit and vegetable sacrifice. If you studied the Law of Moses sacrifice, but for this instance, Cain was offering the wrong sacrifice and doing it with the wrong intent. So after that, you have Cain's descendants. And that's an interesting thing. We kind of skip over that, but Cain has descendants. They had a lot of to do with culture and civilization, the art building up and musical instruments. Another important thing to think about is one of Cain's descendants was called Enoch. And this Enoch also set up a city. And this isn't to be confused with the other Enoch from the other lineage. And you kind of see the problems. You have two cities of Enochs going on at the same time, and we need to keep both of them straight. So the question, the Cain of nature's curse. Read official declaration number 2, and that the church has disavowed previous series about racial aspects and curses from that. So make sure you're up to speed on that. You're not passing on outdated and incorrect information. Okay, here we are, heading number 4, the Christ quotient. Christ's mission was to compensate for the effects of the fall. And as you read the Book of Mormon, it becomes very clear. The expression that was first coined by Elder Bruce R. McConkie and later picked up by President Russell M. Nelson was the 3 pillars of eternity: creation, fall, atonement. You need to understand the creation, you need to understand the fall in order to stand the atonement. And the atonement, that's the point of everything. So I'm Kendall Bryan Hunter, and thank you for listening. And I'm at 7 minutes now. I promise I'll get under 5 minutes as soon as I can.